introduce you at the end.
Hello.
But we have usually we have an educational moment, which we will be having. When John Kelly, who is our brand new member, is going to deliver this talk. Now, he is going to be a 5 to 7 minute speaker, and he has requested an evaluation after he's done. So Margaret, one of our newer members, and also a Concord Toastmaster, will be his evaluator later on. So I want you to know that, yes, I know educational minutes don't usually have an evaluator, but today they do. And today I am also the general evaluator, unless that's Rashid that's coming on, that he said he wasn't going to be here. I see his picture. Rashid, are you coming back to us, baby?
Well, I'm here, but I can't stay.
Okay,
past-
great. I'll
well,
still be general evaluator then. So I'll be running the entire meeting. God forbid. All right, before we begin, Robin, do you want to give us a timers report, the timing rules for the 3 speakers?
Absolutely. Thank you, Deb. I have 3 speakers. My first one is John Kelly, and his timing is 5 to 7 minutes. So he will have green at 5, which will appear, come on, which will appear as a background, yellow at 6, red at 7. My next speaker is Lamar. Lamar, I had planned on giving you 18, 19, and 20. I hope that works for you. If not, please put something in the chat. And then Javier, I understand you are 15, so we'll do 13, 14, 15. Those are the backgrounds that will appear. If you pin as a speaker, if you pin the timer somewhere where you can see it, that way you will be able to see your backgrounds and you won't be wondering where the heck you are. That's what I have. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Sean says 8 to 10 minutes.
Excuse me?
John put in the chat saying that his time is 8 to 10
You
minutes.
want 8 to 10, John?
I misunderstood, so it's my
Fine.
fault. If I need to go 7, I will do my best. I'm just hoping
Nope, 8 to 10 is
over
fine.
7, a hook doesn't come out and drag me away.
Okay, I will
All
make
right, Robin, you all set then? 8 to 10? Okay. And I don't see our and our grammarian on screen yet. She is in Florida, and there's some weather issues down there that she's experiencing. So just everybody keep your ears open for the ums and ahs. How's that? All right, John, are you ready for us, baby? Your first speech here at Pops. I'm so excited to be introducing you. John Kelly is a member of the London Victorians. It's just Toastmasters, and where he is the guy with the funny accent. He is pleased to join you all in Texas, where he is sure his New Hampshire accent will not sound strange at all. He is a retired high school teacher searching for his next adventure. As a Toastmaster, an English teacher, a dad, and a movie buff, he often thinks about communication. To tell us about a quartet of communication styles, please help me welcome to the Zoom podium my friend, John Kelly. John, take it away.
My fellow Toast, my communication style is all of the above. I went to Pathways, I took the survey, the software analyzed my answers, and taught me about 4 communication styles: direct, initiating, supportive, and analytical. In my case, I had practically a 4-way tie. The software described each of the 4 with some positive traits and 1 downside. First up was direct. A direct communicator is focused and motivated. Yes, that is exactly who I am. However, a direct communicator might be perceived as demanding. Now you listen to me, Pathways. You take that back right now. Tied for second was initiating. An initiating communicator is sociable, and enthusiastic. Yes, that too is exactly who I am. The downside is that a sociable, initiating communicator might talk too much. I would address that unfair allegation. However, I have only 10 minutes today. Also tied for second was supportive. A supportive communicator is sympathetic and patient. Yes, that too is exactly who I am. The downside is that a supportive communicator might be perceived as indecisive. And that can't be true, can it? Probably not, I guess. Also tied for second was analytical. An analytical communicator is disciplined and cautious. Yes, that too is exactly who I am. An analytical communicator, however, might be perceived as a perfectionist. Well, perfection is something that I'm good at. Oh, wait a minute. That sentence ended with a preposition. I have to fix that. Perfectionism is one of my best traits. What do all of those descriptors have in common? They all appeal to my ego. To paraphrase Janis Joplin, they say I got it and it makes me feel good. I'm happy when a person, even if that person is a piece of software, tells me how cool I am. I admire a researcher named James Randi. I encourage you to check out his books and to see the documentary film about him called An Honest Liar. James Randi was a magician. He appeared on the stage under the stage name The Amazing Randi. He also had an interest in psychic phenomenon such as mind reading and astrology. In one of his experiments, he visited a college class, and he collected data from all of the college kids about the location and time of their birth. He went home, consulted his charts, and returned with a written description of their personality traits, based on his understanding of the way the stars aligned in the place and at the precise time that they were born. And I mean precise. He got down to the minute. Then he asked them to grade him. Tell me, how accurate was I in describing your personality? Every college student gave him an A or an A minus. The Amazing Randi was indeed amazing. Then he had the students switch up their horoscopes. And as you might have predicted, they were identical. The college kids, like all of us, were eager to affirm and to put their faith in anything that paid them a compliment. When I read the horoscopes in the newspaper, I read all of them, not just my own. And which horoscope best describes me? All of the above. Well, all the good ones, that is. I decided after the experience that maybe those 4 categories, direct, initiating, supportive, and analytical, were not all that helpful to me. And then a voice in my head said, well, Mr. Negative, do you have a better idea? Well, yes, I do. I have some alternative categories for each that might help us think about our communication style. My first set of categories is Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, Gryffindor, and Slytherin. Hufflepuffs are kind, Ravenclaws are clever, Gryffindors are brave and loyal, Slytherins are ambitious, which is not necessarily a bad thing, even though some evil characters did come out of Slytherin House. Which communication style is mine? All of the above. Although J.K. Rowling does say that we should all try to be Hufflepuffs. And I like that. I want my communication style to be kind, even if I have to deliver bad news. Here's another way to think about communication styles. John, Paul, George, Ringo. John was the smart one. Paul was the cute one. George was the quiet one, and then the spiritual one, and Ringo was the funny one. I've been watching the documentary Get Back about the Beatles in a multi-week intense work session at the Twickenham and Apple studios. In the documentary so far, Ringo appears to be the quiet one. He's making eye contact, he's actively listening to the other Beatles, he's offering sincere encouragement. Which communication style is mine? All of the above, but I aspire to be Ringo. How about bad communication styles? I don't admire them, but I see them, and perhaps you have as well. I suggest lying, sugarcoating, jargon, and intimidating. We all know what lying is, and perhaps we see that every time we read a newspaper. Sugarcoating is when we put on a false, cheerful front, or we use euphemisms, or we avoid bad news. Baffling is when we use jargon, or when we use polysyllabic words when clear, direct words would be a more effective way to communicate. And intimidating, that's when our communication carries a threat, direct or indirect. I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse. Which of those communication styles do I sometimes find myself guilty of, even just a little bit? All of the above. Madam Toastmaster?
Thank you, John. Well done, my friend. And it's so good to see you in action. For the rest of the pops, John was in our Concord, my Concord, New Hampshire group, and he has left to go over the pond. So it was great to see you. Thank you. You know, I don't know if this is a big pops thing, but in Concord, we would suggest that everybody write John a note and put it in the chat. Thank you again. All right, now, excuse me. Our next speaker up is a woman that I've never heard myself. I've never heard her speak, and I believe this is her first speech here at Pops. Is that true? Lamar, are you ready? Here we go. Lamar Brown started her journey with Toastmasters as an 18-year-old intern, and she returned in Toastmasters on and off throughout her corporate life. In her third act, she became a professor, watching students fall asleep in other professors' class and not wanting to commit lecture larceny. She finally returned to Toastmasters to earn her competent communicator. Lamar normally speaks about negotiation, but is going to try something new in an attempt to motivate and talk about her own personal life. Her presentation today is 20 minutes. The title of her speech is Have Faith. Have faith. Please welcome to the lectern, Lamar Brown. Take it away, sweetheart.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I think I was created as an example of what God can do, because if God can enable someone like me to go through some of the circumstances I've had to face, then only He knows how much more someone like you can achieve. My name is Lamar Brown, and I'm originally from Madison, Wisconsin. Anyone ever been to Madison? Guess what? You haven't really missed much. Madison is the capital city of Wisconsin, and my parents both were from there, and they strongly believed, like a lot of other African-American parents and like a lot of people that are new coming to the United States for the first time, that education is the way. Now, when I say that, I should have music playing behind me. There should be smoke coming out of your computer, because education was always presented to me as something magical. something that is just all powerful. It is the way up. It is the way through. It is the way. It is the way. When I was first born, one of the first things my mother did was sign me up for the University of Wisconsin-Madison kindergarten waitlist. She could not wait. About the time I turned 5, I got in. I still remember my kindergarten teacher's name was Mrs. Gorshals. She referred to me one of 3 ways: either Lamar, stupid, or Jungle Bunny. Now, my mother was a kindergarten teacher and a first grade teacher, and she started staying home with me right after I was born. So I could read and write and play an instrument, and I was starting to learn how to read music all before I started kindergarten. So I personally thought the stupid was not really called for. Because if you remember kindergarten, there was always that kid that was eating the glue. Not me. Then I knew that I was the only Black kid. This is Wisconsin and this is the 60s, let's just be honest. And I knew that I was the only one that got called Jungle Bunny and a couple other names too. So I could make a connection, but my 5-year-old brain couldn't really wrap around and get it. What I did know for sure is that I hated school. I didn't want to go. I begged every single day not to have to go through that. This was exactly the opposite of what my mother had wanted to happen. So she sat me down for the talk. Does anyone know what I'm talking about when I say the talk? Anybody? Okay. The talk usually consists of maybe 3 points. The first one is, life is not fair. The second one is, people are going to call you names. They're going to treat you unfairly. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it. The third is, what you can control is how you react to it. Do not let anyone else's ignorance, anyone else's prejudice, cheat you out of your education or anything else that is good. Now, that third point bears repeating because I think this is a universal truth that applies to everybody here. Do not let anybody's ignorance, anybody's prejudice, anybody's anything cheat you out of anything good. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, just to have some sympathy for my poor mother, we're all adults here, so we can have this logical talk and it's okay. Let's think about her trying to have a talk with a 5-year-old. I hope this works. This is my son at 5 years old. Okay? Can you see those teeth? The only thing he cared about at 5 years old was when he was going to get those teeth so he could eat again. There was no having a logical, serious conversation with him. Now, my father was one of the first computer engineers. He worked at IBM. We used to joke that IBM meant I've been moved. And each time my parents moved, their marriage kind of destabilized until finally, when we lived in Minneapolis, they got a divorce. Now, my mother had been staying home for quite a while. She'd been out of the workforce. So she took a job as a secretary. We were living in the house that they had purchased together and she was trying to pay the mortgage. So we were doing a lot of going to food pantries. I was eating a lot of government cheese, ramen noodles, that type of thing. Now, if you can picture this, it's the early 1980s. I'm a financially broke Black girl. And my mother, having faith, looked out at all the schools in Minneapolis and found the one that was the most competitive high school. She picked the Blake Upper School. Tuition today for Blake is $35,500 per year. There is no way but God. Turned out, Blake decided they wanted to integrate. So they let in 10 African-American girls and they provided scholarships for those that needed it, like me. I arrived at Blake wearing all hand-me-down clothes. I tried to be friendly and talk to people, and I could not string together a sentence where people did not correct me. Even when I tried, I could not string together a grammatically correct sentence to save my life. Now, anyone who's ever experienced me as a grammarian, this is where it comes from. That whole Blake experience. In addition to the whole English problem, I think now that I'm an undiagnosed dyslexic. Back then, all I knew was algebra was very, very hard. In any case, I got through it. So now it's the late 1980s, and I'm still a broke Black girl and dyslexic probably. But having faith, I decided I really wanted to be a mechanical engineer. And I wanted to go to a school called Northwestern, which is a Big Ten school in the Midwest. Northwestern is currently, for tuition, room, and board, $84,000 per year. And an engineering degree usually takes 5 years. 5 at $84,000 per year. There is, again, no way, but God. My mother and I made a deal. If I would pay for half, she would pay for the other half. There was a program called Inroads at the time, and Inroads helped minorities get jobs starting after high school senior year, internships for the summer. And it helped people that were going into engineering and business. So I landed an internship at a company called Rosemont Engineering. If I could make this work, I would make more than my mother per hour. I was 17 years old. One problem. I live in the city. Rosemont Engineering is way out in the suburbs. We have one car, and my mother's using it to get to work. There's no public transportation. And clearly, I don't have enough money to get out there by cab or anything else like that. So I got someone to give me a ride out and back the first day. And having faith, I went to work. When I got there, as usual, God blessed, and I found somebody who was willing to help me out. Some days not. But that whole summer, I managed to get to work and back every single day. Wasn't always easy, but it worked. So fast forward, I'm going to Northwestern, everything's looking good. Every single year though, they cut my financial aid. I made it to about junior year. End of junior year, we both ran out of money. So I go to the financial aid office and I sat down and I said, I think I'm gonna have to drop out unless I get more aid. The financial aid officer said, maybe there are some things we can agree on. Number one, no one is gonna give you any more loans, not you or your mother, you're maxed out. Number two, you're already working 2 work-study jobs. You're not gonna have time to go to school if you take a third, much less have time to study. So I thought this was going pretty well, huh? Next, he said, we're not able to offer you any more aid. Now, I tried everything, including crying. The man reached down, passed me a tissue, then he stood up, shook my hand and said, it's been great having you, Lamar. We really wish you well. And he showed me to the door. So I called my mother and I told her, and she said, have faith, keep on going to school, keep on doing your work-study job. It'll work out. So I did. My friends are getting ready to go to senior year. They're meeting with their counselors and everything. So this is usually when I say, but God, right? This time I'm going to say, but my mother. My mother sold her big, beautiful house, moved into a little tiny apartment, and she took the proceeds and she paid my bill. And she kept the money and continued to pay my bill until I got out of that school. Now, there are some people that graduate valedictorian. There are some people who graduate cum laude. I graduated, thank you, Lordy. You have never seen a person so happy to get out of school and start working. So I went to work. It took me 9 years to pay back all the student loans, to pay back my mother, to pay everything out. And in that time, I started getting interested in getting an MBA. So I went to a conference and I talked with someone who's pretty knowledgeable about these things. And I told her that, being an engineer, I made a spreadsheet. And what I found with my spreadsheet is it only worked for me to go back and get an MBA full time if I could get into the top 3 schools. Otherwise, it was not going to make any sense financially. So she asked me what I got on my GMAT. Now I was standing in a pretty crowded place, but I thought, I'll tell her. I told her. She looked down at the ground. Never good when people look at the ground. Then she looked up and she said, that's not good enough. The guy behind me in line went, oh. The guy next to him laughed out loud at me. Then she said, did you do a test prep class? No, I've never done test prep. I just walk in with 2 sharpened number 2 pencils. She said, oh, that's the problem. You need to take the best test prep class you can find. I still remember how my hand shook when I wrote the check for the $1,000 it was going to take for me to take the test prep class. Because I was so ignorant of anything test prep, it turned out that my score popped more than they had even suggested that it would. So it's now the 1990s. Having faith, I wanted to get an MBA at a top 3 school. I wanted to go work on Wall Street. I wanted to do investment banking. Not likely, but God. Thankfully, with my new with my new GMAT score, all the volunteer work I had been doing, and then the work experiences over the 9-10 years it took me to pay off all that debt. I was really, really blessed to get into the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. And I was doubly blessed because an investment bank named Goldman Sachs gave me a fellowship. So this time I had full tuition paid for both years. And for the first time in my life, I could just go to school and focus on it. It was a wonderful experience. I loved it. Now, in conclusion, I think God created me as an example of what he can do. Because if God could take someone like me that had to face some of these challenges and circumstances, then I think that someone like you could do so much more. So if you're ever faced with anything that seems challenging, I want you to think, have faith, but God. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It was a great presentation. I'm so blessed. I got to see your maiden voyage here in Pops. So
Thank you.
well done. If you take a minute and write Lamar a note, and you can put it right in the chat. And I think we all know how to save that chat. Down in the very corner, there's a three little dots, and you push that and you can save the chat. I try to save it every time, but I don't always remember. But this time,
And
Lamar, you're going to get a lot of wonderful words, I'm sure.
can I just say that if you actually choose Lamar's name, then you can send it to her directly as opposed to in the whole chat.
Terrific. Yes. All right. Our third speaker today is Javier Flores. And Javier, you ready? All right. Javier Flores is a charter member of POPS. He's a public speaking coach who enjoys immersion in a variety of communication means. Today, he is speaking about lessons learned from coaching public speakers. Please help me welcome Javier Flores with his title, Lessons from Coaching. Javier, take it away.
Good afternoon. Today's project is based on a Toastmasters project. And the idea behind the Toastmasters project is that you are supposed to have gone through the experience of having coached an individual outside of Toastmasters and thought about the way that you can reflect in terms of how Toastmasters has helped you with that and how you furthered that. And that has been my experience. I've been in Toastmasters for 12 years and have gotten a chance to go through all the various aspects of going through the entire program. In fact, I've done more than one DTM. And the value of doing that and continuously working despite the fact that you've completed a program is that you get to experience it in different ways. And that's kind of what coaching is all about. Coaching lies somewhere between mentorship and teaching. And what I'd like to start off with is to ask you for your opinion. And what I'd like to know is if maybe we can get 2 or 3 volunteers, just a quick answer on what do you think, if you've been a coach, what do you think is what made you effective? And if you have been coached, what do you think it was that your coach did that made it an effective experience for you? So I'd like to take just 2 or 3 people that maybe can share with us. Anyone? Who's been a coach?
I've never been a coach, but I think asking questions as opposed to telling is very effective.
Asking questions instead of telling. Okay. All right, Akili?
Yes.
What do you think's been, when you had a good experience coaching someone, what do you think made that an effective experience?
My listening skills. I use my listening skills and the communications that I've learned in Toastmasters, especially to help the process of coaching individuals.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so I spoke and I mentioned it's coaching lies somewhere between mentoring and teaching, because when you are a mentor, traditionally you are helping somebody that's going along somebody else's path. So they might already be studying a particular curriculum that an organization, an educational institution, a program like Toastmasters that already has a program set up. You're helping them and guide them through something that is already established, right? On the opposite end, when it's teaching, there's already a set curriculum and that person is only going to teach that particular information. They're wanting you to learn that information. Coaching lies somewhere in between, because you have a curriculum that is designed to help that individual achieve what they want to achieve. But because that person has a variety of styles in terms of the way that they learn, their educational style, things that might be their strengths or their weaknesses, then you're guiding them along that path so that you can make that a personal experience. And to me, that is what I've learned is the most valuable aspect of being able to coach, is being able to understand and work with that person specifically. So whenever you're going to be a coach, to me, from the lessons that I've learned, and this is all reflections of things that I've learned. So what I hope that you get out of this is that it's food for thought for you in terms of the things that maybe you're doing or hoping to do in the future. But for me, the foundation is being able to establish a baseline. I've been in programs before where somebody started teaching me and telling me I should do this and do that, and never ever asked me what I knew, where I stood, where I began, how much experience I already had. So how can you help somebody if you don't even understand who they are and what they're about? So first of all, it's a baseline understanding of who is this individual, what is their level of confidence, what it is that they're trying to grow as a public speaker, where do they begin? So generally, there's 3 kinds of categories. There's people that have never spoken and are very scared about public speaking. And so you're taking them from the very, very foundations of becoming comfortable with even just communicating to growing as a public speaker. Then you have individuals that have experience, but they feel like they're not refined. They're not at the level that they want to be. And so you're taking those individuals from a point where they're comfortable enough to speak in public, but now they're trying to refine their skills to a certain level. And then you have people that are already experienced and may be professional speakers and have a degree of experience and knowledge about public speaking, but they are looking to take their speaking abilities to another level. Traditionally, that means that they're looking to understand how to engage an audience more effectively. And that's where you can help somebody that is already a good professional speaker, to give them examples and opportunities to be able to learn how to take that ability to engage the audience and take it to a whole other level. So to find out, first of all, where a person stands can let you know what it is that you're going to help with them in terms of the curriculum that you've set up already. Does that make sense? Yeah. And so for me, I have developed my own style of curriculum based on both my understanding of myself and how I can help others, and what I believe to be a good path for people to grow in their ability to be a public speaker. different coaches could have different styles, and it may end up resulting in the same, having the same results in the end. But it's really about you developing that ability to be able to carry that person from where they're at to where they want to be, which lays my next point. So whenever we do begin that process where we've gotten to know the person, we know where they stand, then what we want to do is be able to know exactly what it is that they want to achieve. Because in the broad sense, you, as a coach, you can present yourself and say, I can make a public speaker a better speaker. That's a broad category, right? But then if we go into a specific reason, then we have something that we can work with together. So my experience has been with the individuals that I've helped out is that I've found out what it is that their purpose was for wanting to be a better public speaker. And one example, one individual worked in business. He was a good businessman. He was in design and graphics and wanted to bring all of these international companies that he worked with because he had good personal skills and could communicate from a business standpoint, but seemed to not be able to provide proper proposals for these companies to bring this business to the United States. And his goal was that he wanted to be able to present his business well so that he could engage those individuals and have and get that business and come here. So from that coaching perspective, it gave us a specific example, a specific reason that we could use to be able to carry throughout that curriculum. So our goal became that we were going to have him by the end of our program or our intended curriculum to be able to deliver an effective proposal for a specific company. And that gave us something tangible to work with where he knew where he was going and I knew what I could do to help him. And we could demonstrate that this is where you started and this is what you're capable of doing now. By the end of the program, you will be able to deliver an effective proposal that's going to get you that business. I had another individual that his main concern was his English was as a second language. He spoke Spanish primarily, and so his goal was that he wanted to be a better presenter, but he wanted to be able to do it effectively in both Spanish and English. So then our goal became, we're going to do a presentation that you can do both bilingually, and that became our driving force to be able to accomplish what he wanted to accomplish. So it's about finding specifically what that person wants to accomplish. That allows us to be able to move further and go into the curriculum. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the curriculum that I've set up, just in a broad sense, not going into too much detail. But for me, for example, I based my curriculum on the pillar of empathy. For me, empathy is a very important factor in being able to be a good public speaker. It's not the only one. Other people can have different priorities in terms of how they're coaching, but for me, that's the foundation of what I like to share. And so for me, I start off with the idea that you have to understand psychology and you have to understand empathy in order for you to even become a good communicator. Then after that, we go into a second section, which is the mechanics, which is what we've learned in Toastmasters in terms of our vocal variety and our stage presence, our eye contact, all the mechanics of it. And then the third part of it is being able to engage your audience. So this is where you, like, as I mentioned earlier, this is where you can actually make a difference because that's how you know that you are going to be able to deliver the message that you're trying to deliver, that your audience is going to actually understand it, and that you're going to have a call to action that's really going to be effective because it's going to be understood. So let's go through those in a little more detail. So when we're talking about empathy and the foundation psychology, I'm so blessed that John got a chance to speak about the DISC profile and about all those personality profiles, because that is something that is key. Before we even begin speaking in public, we have to understand ourselves. And by taking a look at some of these personality profiles and different aspects of psychology, we can learn about ourselves. So in terms of the DISC profile, understanding that there are some type A, dominant, getting things done individuals, then you have other people that are more of the cheerful cheerleader. They lead by being the motivators. You have other people that are more of the healers. They're trying to make sure that everybody's doing well, everybody's being taken care of. And then you have some other people that are analytical, and their skill set lies in their organizational ability. And so we talk about these things both from the perspective that they can understand themselves, but then they can also observe from all their other interactions what other people are like. Because when we start paying attention to some of these details, we start understanding why it is that people act the way that they do, why it is that people receive information the way that they do, why it is that one of the huge aspects of public speaking is to understand the difference between right-brained and left-brained individuals, or the concept that some people are much, much more emotional and some people are much more analytical. And any good public speaker knows that you have to be able to reach both people, because people are become engaged based on those two aspects. So as we practice different games and we talk about different personality traits, it makes a person feel welcome, and it makes a person feel like they are starting to understand themselves and understand other people. So we work on that to establish the fact that being able to relate to people is the key to communication. So whenever you can speak about something that you understand in terms of what somebody else understands and use an example that they can understand, then all of a sudden now we have bridged that communication gap. And that's the value of empathy. Another thing that makes it fun to play with empathy is that because my background includes improv comedy and improvisational games, it's an amazing way to be able to connect with people. So one of the things that you can do to demonstrate the opportunity for you to understand motivation and also different senses of emotion, I'll play one game today as an example, is the positive negative travel game. And what it is you go on a trip and one person will talk about how amazing this trip is, and then the other person is the Debbie Downer that something goes wrong with that trip. And then you flip back and forth. So as an example, if I said, I went on an amazing trip on a hot air balloon, I got a chance to go way up in the sky and I could see all the beautiful fields. And so then the negative person would say, yeah, but when we were on the balloon trip, it started raining and it started thunderstorming and I was scared for my life. And then the other person would say, yeah, but the rain ended up passing us by because all the wind currents from the Atlantic coast were taking it the other way. And we got a chance to bypass it and see the amazing rainbow that it created. So it's this positive, negative effect. So I'd like for somebody to volunteer and we can try this game real quick. Anybody want to play? Who wants to play? Akili, all right. Round of applause for Akili. All right, so let's go ahead and do that, okay? Would you like to be the positive or the negative person?
I would love to be negative. Okay, wait, stop smiling. I'm gonna stop smiling. I'm negative.
You're the negative one? Okay.
I'm negative.
So we're going on a trip together, okay? So I'm gonna start, okay? This past summer, Akili and I went on an amazing trip. We took a flight to beautiful Hawaii.
Yeah, except no one was wearing a mask when we got on the airplane.
The fortunate thing was that they had already pre-screened everybody. And so we didn't even have to worry about that. And it was so nice not being able to wear a mask because we all ended up singing songs together while we played the ukulele.
That would have been really great, except in the beginning when Javier said, let's all sing, people tried to take their masks down and then remembered they had to put their mask back on. And as the ukulele was playing, it was hard to understand what everybody was singing because they sounded like this and it wasn't very good. So it just wasn't the same.
Yeah, so the good thing was we had a couple of drinks at the airport and Akili fell asleep. So everybody else was laughing and having a good time. So thank you very much. Let's give a round of applause for Akili.
Except I talk in my sleep.
Yeah, so by playing these kinds of games, it gives people an opportunity to learn and understand different aspects of psychology and communication as far as how effective it can be to use positive language, things that you can draw from later on, right? So the last couple of sections, like I mentioned, are the mechanics. You can use different tools like teaching people to speak to what person's saying just one sentence at a time, and then switching over to talking to somebody else and saying one sentence at a time. And that helps you learn how to distribute your eye contact. So different games that you can play can allow these people to learn and develop those skills. The same thing with vocal variety, being able to in one sentence, say it really loud, one sentence, say it really quiet. And it's all about training yourself to be able to do these different aspects. So that's one way that you can learn. And then finally, when we talk about engaging the audience, I did a speech previously about this, so I didn't want to go into too much detail about that. But 3 things that you can do to engage an audience is to tell a story, to be able to provide an example, and to be able to provide a demonstration. And so helping these individuals to develop those skills and those abilities give that person an opportunity to be able to engage the audience. So these are some of my reflections that I've had in terms of things that I've learned from coaching different individuals. I hope that it has given you food for thought and has given you the opportunity to consider what you're doing if you're coaching, and consider how you can learn as well whenever you're being coached by somebody else. I'm Toastmaster.
Thank you, Javier, despite the Debbie Downer. Oh, come on, no. Thank you, and you are a charter member. I believe Tammy and is it Rashid? Are you, all 3 of you are charter members? Am I missing anyone else? That's a charter member still? Okay, well, I wanted to just, Yvette, thank you for being a charter member. Thank you, everyone, for thinking about POPs and creating POPs, because not only is this an advanced club, we're a kind of a different kind of advanced club, because everyone here has the potential to become a professional speaker. Either you are exploring being a professional speaker, you're in the beginning stages, or maybe you're someone like myself and Robin who have been professional speakers and we just want to polish our talks. And Donna Moore, I'm just going to put a little bit of, she's a fabulous professional speaker too. So I'm so glad you're here. Anyway, take a minute and write a note to Javier in the chat. And Robin, can we have the timers report for our speakers?
Yes, thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Our first speaker, John, spoke for 7 minutes and 55 seconds. Our second speaker, Lamar, spoke for 13 minutes and 56 seconds. And our third speaker, Javier, spoke for 16 minutes and 30 seconds.
Thank you, my dear. You know, timing is so important, particularly when you're a professional speaker, because if you're on stage, you're probably not the only one that's going to be there. And you always want to keep to your time, because that keeps the agenda working well for a conference. And if you're on television, if you're not done in time, they don't care. They cut you off, you're done. So to really work on your timing is important here at POPs. Well, now we're going to have the evaluation portion of our meeting. And I will let you know that Akili has volunteered to be grammarian. And I believe that would be after all of the evaluations. Is that correct? Okay, so I'm sorry, now you're going to have to watch your grammar. I believe my next role is to introduce our first evaluator, who is evaluating the speech of John Kelly. And she's got the shorter evaluation, so she's got a 2 to 3 minutes. Margaret McClellan, take it away.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Hello, everybody, and mostly John. John, I loved your speech, and I'm so happy to see you here today. How wonderful to see you. I always enjoy listening to your speeches. They were always entertaining and very informative. Just like today's speech, I thought today's speech was absolutely great. You were very, very organized. Even when you mentioned some of the negative things, it still sounded positive. You still had a positive takeaway about it. I thought you were very enthusiastic. I loved your gestures. You had great eye contact. Great description about every subject that you were talking about. I love the fact that you stood up when you presented. I thought that was very, very effective. in your speech as well. I thought that you had very, very, very good vocal variety when you were speaking on each subject that you were talking about. And I love the examples that you used, and we had a little singing in there too, so that was great. Again, the only thing that that I found that was a little distracting was your background. But, you know, overall, I thought that, you know, your speech, I thought I really enjoyed it. And I believe that everybody else enjoyed it as well. And I think that everybody just, you know, the fact that you're new to this group, I think that everybody really, really enjoyed hearing you speak today. So great job, very informative, and I look forward to hearing you speak again. And also too, this topic, pop culture, I think that you can go a little bit more into other areas about this as well. So thank you so much, John. Very, very enjoyable. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Margaret. Now that I did say that we wouldn't have a round robin for John because of time, I'm looking at my time and I think we have some opportunity. So would anybody in our audience, you don't have to be a POPs member, you can just give your 2 cents. Just put your hand up and I will call upon you and then tell John little things that you might have noticed. And Robin, are you giving me a hand up? You want it ready? Robin, take it away.
Hey, John, thanks so much for joining Pops and thanks for jumping in with both feet. The only technical issue that I would have is I need more light because it's making your picture grainy. And that's kind of a delicate balance. It's something if you want to ever check out before you speak again, you know, don't hesitate to call on another member and get it on Zoom and see how that looks. And the background, I know that Margaret already mentioned that. Those two things really go together because the only place I want my attention is on you. Other than that, you do very well speaking directly to the camera. Thank you. And you do have, because you're standing up, have that energy, and that makes all the difference. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Robin. Anyone else? Javier, take it away.
Sure. Yeah, I really enjoyed the presentation, John, and I think everybody else did as well because it was obviously well rehearsed, well organized. So in terms of the things that you did to prepare, that's exemplary of what you should do to deliver a good speech. And what I particularly liked was the fact that the different examples and voices that you did, they were a good medium. Like they were strong, but they weren't over the top, because sometimes people try to be funny by being over the top and exaggerated, and it loses the humor because it's just too much. It's kind of cringeworthy, so to speak. But you had like a really good medium, which is what I appreciate. Because it was enjoyable. It was really enjoyable and well done. So thank you.
Thank you, Javier. Anyone else have something to share with John? Okay. Oh, Akili, yes.
I just wanted to share really quick. The thing that I enjoyed about your speech was the combination of humor along with some informative information. I am one that came up through the manuals for any older people in Toastmasters, and I enjoyed the manuals. And you gave a refreshing approach to getting into pathways, which I don't want to do. But I enjoyed the way you said it. It kind of made me say, oh, okay, maybe I'll look again. Maybe not, but maybe I will, because it was encouraging. I like that about that. So I think it should be an educational speech that goes around to the different conferences and use it as a way to encourage other Toastmasters, us old heads that don't want to move into the future.
Thank you, my friend. Well said. A basic manual person myself. Okay. All right. Thanks for everyone for your 2 cents. And John, I just gonna, I adore you and I think you're a fabulous speaker. And I would love to see you on the professional stage. I know you've done acting and all sorts of things, but I think that today's speech, I'd love to see you do it again, but this time 20 minutes. Like let's expand it, because to be a paid speaker, you really have to 20 minutes maybe, but really 30 minutes. So that's what we'll go for, but well done. Robin, what is the timing rules for our regular evaluators at POPs?
Let me also say that Margaret was 2 minutes and 27 seconds. The other 2 evaluators will be 6 to 8 minutes. So 6, 7, 8 will be their green, yellow, and red lights.
All right, thank you so much. And to evaluate the speech of Lamar Brown, please help me welcome Tammy Gardner. Tammy, take it away.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, General Evaluator, and all of the above. Let me say that it has been worth the wait to see Lamar speak, or to hear Lamar speak, to see and hear Lamar speak. And I have a feeling that this is a speech that could be used in a keynote situation. A speech to inspire, to encourage. And today, as I do this evaluation, we're going to look at 3 areas. We're going to look at what I heard, what I saw, and my takeaways. What I learned, in other words. What I heard a woman with a compelling story. Not just any story, not just a story. It was her story. It wasn't my story. It was nothing in that speech that I can look back on my life and say, oh yeah. So I was compelled to listen to the speech because it was totally new to anything I had ever experienced. You had a great use of humor, and I think that's just part of your personality. I am a very informal style of speaker, conversational. I try to be conversational. They say that's what sells. Instead of a very rehearsed, and not that John was, I think John was very refreshing. But I like your style and how you inserted the humor just looking at yourself. I think that engages an audience that we all can relate to. So I thought you did a very good job of that. There was one point where you put your hand over your mouth because you were doing one of these, just a suggestion, because audibly it was muffled. In other words, you covered up your mouth, and we can't do that in this virtual medium. Something will get lost. A suggestion is perhaps just under the chin so that you can still use that same gesture, pensive gesture, but yet not cover up your mouth. You may have meant to cover up your mouth, I don't know, but just a suggestion. Your speech, what I heard, your speech was a chronological, very well organized story of your life. Now, what I'm going to suggest here, and this is just from what I heard throughout having heard the whole speech, it might be helpful to have 3 primary points or so that you're trying to make. 3 things that you want us to remember and learn for ourselves out of your story, because there are a lot of lessons to be learned out of your story. The thing about that is it's an organizational tool that you can use throughout the speech to bring people back to those 3 points. So they'll be watching for them and listening for them, but also we'll talk about how you can use them in your conclusion as well. You did use a hook, but for God. And I thought you used it very effectively. You didn't, in other words, you did not overuse it. You used it in the right places at the right time and in the right tenor. You weren't preaching at us about it. You were just reflecting on that was your experience. Another thing I want to suggest is that you work on using pauses. I think your speech might have benefited from a few more pertinent pauses to let us as the audience let this compelling story sink in and make that impact on those 3 points that you want us to remember sink in. What I saw, first of all, you looked great. I liked the contrast of your top to the black background. That was excellent. Sometimes we don't think about what our clothes will look like in front of a background, especially if as a professional speaker, you show up somewhere and there's this real noisy background with a bunch of sponsors' names all over the place. And then here you are wearing a floral print. That can be difficult. So there are things that we need to think about, and you obviously thought about that. You have a great smile, and I feel like you used it effectively. Don't be afraid to use your smile, because again, that's something that engages us just as human beings. The big hit on what I saw is that your eyes were not looking at that little light, that little camera. They wandered off for me. In my case, to stage right, what I was looking would be your left. And so I started kind of watching you, if it was just because you weren't confident or you weren't thinking about looking at that little light, that little camera. But then I got to wondering, were you reading your speech or were you using notes? And if you were, that's fine. But I would suggest that you figure out a way to get those notes where only we see you looking at that camera. I don't think it's bad to use notes, but I don't need to see you looking at them. And I want you to know when you made your salient points and you looked at that camera, it was very powerful. Okay, let's go on to the final section. What I am taking away today. If this was a speech in front of like-minded believers, it would be most edifying and encouraging. If this speech were done in front of non-believers, one of two things might happen. Some may begin to question their own spiritual condition, and others would be completely turned off and not hear another thing that you say. Always something to consider when we go into these types of topics. Not saying we shouldn't, just always know your audience. Your mother is your greatest advocate. And you now understand the difference that faith makes in your life. And that's why you are now an advocate as well. And it's okay. You told me today, it's okay to dream big, dream really big, and don't stop till you get where you want to be, where you're supposed to be. Again, your conclusion, I feel like you could have tied everything together if you'd had those 3 points to kind of give us a roadmap through the speech. It's just a little tool that I was taught in the 7th grade. Always have something for your audience to come back to and remember, so they remember your speech, especially these long speeches. We want them to remember us on that stage after we leave. And in POPs, or in the accredited speaker program, in their evaluation form, there are 2 questions that we used to always ask in our evaluations. First of all, would I hire you? Yes. Second of all, would I refer you? Yes. Today was a watershed day for you. I hope that these points that I've made will help you the next time you make this speech. And I look forward to more speeches. Thank you, Lamar.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you, Tammy. Well done. Round robin time. Do we have any attendees? Would you like to give Lamar a couple of little pointers here and there, or tell her what you like? Keely, go take it away.
So very moved by your speech. It was powerful, and I found myself identifying with pieces and then pulling back when I thought I could, but then saw something different. I enjoyed the layers that you provided. I found myself a little out of breath sometimes because as I was running alongside of you, I got tired and just wanted to sit down and rest after the first degree. But then as I find myself knowing that I'm going to be studying after this is over, I understand why there is still the passion to go forward. I think that this is a speech, as Tammy said, it should be given to others. It shouldn't be hidden. It needs to be shared because it has layers of encouragement for everyone. I appreciate you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, my friend Margaret. What would you like to share today?
Okay. All right. I just want to let Lamar know that I really, really enjoyed your speech. I thought it was wonderful. I loved how you persevered. You never gave up on yourself. You had a lot of things that you had to overcome and deal with. You could have went in the total opposite direction and not really believe in yourself and allow that internal conversation really overtake who you are as a person and as a being. And I thought that you just really, really, I mean, amazing job. So proud of you and your mother. It's wow. What an amazing gift that she had given you, you know, and yeah. So thank you so much for sharing. I thought it was absolutely profound and powerful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. We have time for one more in our round robin. Donna Moore, take it away.
Lamar, I thought your speech was truly inspirational. I saw it as a women's empowerment speech. I wasn't turned off by the sharing of the spiritual beliefs. I really felt that was you coming from your heart, and it's just amazing that you've faced so much adversity and you've been so resilient, and you're here. You did it. And I would think that this would be a signature motivational speech and something you could take national. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. And Lamar, you were amazing. This is a great speech. I'm going to suggest a couple of things. This is a book too. You really need to write it as a book form, because when you're on the big stage, people are going to want to buy their book. They're going to want to take you home. So that's why you need to also think about a book. I drive Margaret and Robin crazy. You got to write a book, but that's really what you need. And as someone who is breaking into the Christian market, I will tell you that it is a tough market, but you are perfect for that market. Well, if that is if your God is Christ. But anyway, that's a great market for you. So my suggestion to you is to do this speech again here at Pops, but yet expand it. Maybe try 25 minutes, 30 minutes or something like that, because I think that this is going to take you places. Thank you again.
Thank you. Can I ask one question?
One quick question.
Okay. When I was looking to the side, I was looking to the computer to see everybody. And when I was looking into the camera, it was far away from my computer. What is everyone doing with their setup so that they can see people without looking away from the camera?
Hey,
Robin?
I hate to tell you this, you just can't really look at the people. There is a new camera that actually hangs down the center of your screen. that is right here. So you're looking at it and you can see, but it's a challenge, absolutely a challenge that you can't really see your people. And if they get frozen or whatever, you can't see them anyway. So I hate to break your bubble there, but yeah, that's it.
And you know, I really believe the speaking world has, this is going, Zoom is not going away. So we really have to get this Zoom right. And Annette, I saw a quick hand, but only 1 minute. Go
No,
for
it's
it.
short. There's something called the Plexi Cam. And if you have a cam map, it sits on this and then it hangs on your computer. So you're actually looking at your screen, but you're also looking right into the camera. It's a very neat little thing called Plexi Cam.
Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. All right, we're going to move into the evaluation portion for Javier and to tell us what, how Javier's speech went. Please help me welcome to the lectern, Yvette Hayes. Yvette, take it away.
Thank you, Debbie. Javier, Javier, Javier. I've heard you millions of times. I'm not going to criticize. I'm going to be straight to the point. You can teach. You can coach. You mentor. You've been in Toastmasters these number of years, and we can tell. The way you delivered your message. If anyone was at a conference, at a convention, in a webinar, and wanted to buy what you were selling, you hit, what I'm about to say, the nail on the head. Let me start by saying this. Connecting with your audience by asking questions, I believe, in my opinion, is a great way to connect with them. In a big setting, and let's take a banquet room at a hotel, right? And it's large, and you don't have time, maybe, to ask the audience questions. But you, in this setting, did. That's great, because we want to be engaging with you. Sometimes these long speeches can't have us like this. Now, you were not looking at me. I was actually writing. I'm actually doing something else. However, I was listening. As a Toastmaster, that's what I do. There's another point. When you said understanding what the person wants to achieve, that's great, because in Toastmasters, as a new Toastmaster, and you're mentoring someone, we always say, or we always ask, what do you want to get out of Toastmasters? What brought you here? Why are you here? And listen to what I'm about to say. Wham, same old thing. However, as a coach, as a mentor, we need to know what. We need to know what. And you did great by explaining what each category is talking about by saying never, a new, never spoken person who never spoke, an experienced speaker, and a professional speaker. Now, Javier, I know you do impromptu. And I think I've mentioned this before when we were meeting in person. I think I mentioned that your tone was monotone. I'm growing and I'm learning to listen because you're teaching me. With that being said, I need to listen with an open ear. What is he really saying to me? Am I going to buy it? I'm going to buy it. He's just talking to hear himself talk. You had me drawn in. And if I wanted to do better by learning, speaking, or maybe telling jokes like you do with the audience sometimes, it's great because you can do that naturally. This is why I'm saying, this is why I started out saying, Javier, you are great at what you do. You are great at what you do. Continue to do that because we have people who don't know how to speak. The young man who spoke first, is he new? I was shocked. He can't be new speaking like that. Imagine He's ready for contest time. You could teach him. I don't think he needs to be taught, but Javier, you can teach a new member or even an audience who's ready to buy what you're selling. Now, I may be kind of getting off topic, but I want you to feel at ease the way I'm evaluating you because you're so relaxed. You gave your points. You want us to achieve something. You want us to grow. You want us to know. Isn't this what it's all about? And you said at the beginning from coaching outside of Toastmasters, that's great, as it should be in an advanced club, in a professional speaking club. I want to learn more. You want to learn more. And Javier, you took us on a journey. You kept it conversational, at times, I'm going to say conventional conference, but you know how to teach. And I'm going to say me, you know how to teach me. I'm learning how to listen more with an open ear, rather than being so critical. I learned years ago from an old, bless his heart, he's not here anymore, Tim DeRosa. Yvette, not so critical. Yes, sir. Someone new may take that offense. Yes, sir. He was a great mentor, him and Coach Keith Remain. To this day, I give them all accolades because I'm learning. Javier, you taught me not to be so critical today. I'm kind of relaxed with my evaluation only because you made it a teaching moment. You have 12 years, your tenure in Toastmasters, right? You've been mentoring. You actually was a sponsor for a club that I'm mentoring. I learned from you. So this is what I'm saying. My evaluation is more relaxed because you actually have taught me. You took me on a journey, your mentorship, your teaching, your coaching. It's kind of all tied together. However, we have new members in this club, new members outside of Toastmasters. I'm sorry, our organizations outside of Toastmasters, which a lot of us are involved in. And we want to be comfortable in our speaking ability, especially in our listening. Because I'm telling you, I've been to some places and oh my goodness, when I start hearing those filler words, I'm like, they need those. Let me see if I can find them afterwards. And I've done that quite a lot of times. However, Javier, don't lose the momentum. You continue to teach me. I'm thankful that Debbie reached out because I wasn't going to do anything today, but I'm so thankful that I'm able to come share with you that I have learned from you. John who spoke and Lamar who spoke, who knew, they learned something from you, just like I learned something from you some years ago. Continue to teach. I'm saying this again. I can't say it enough. I've been taught today, thanks to my mentors from years ago, who taught me not to be so critical. And I think I said this before a few minutes ago, that I was kind of critical, kind of hard on you and maybe some other Toastmasters at the beginning when I was evaluating someone a couple of years ago when we first started this club. And I'm saying I'm sorry. Continue, Javier. Uplift everyone. You have it in you. You may not smile. You may not be, you're very relaxed. I'm gonna put it like that. You may not smile, but you do get your point across. Thank you, Javier. It was my pleasure to once again give you my opinion, how you can continue to grow in your journey outside of Toastmasters as well. Back to you, Debbie.
Oh, thank you, Yvette. I gotta say, that was my first time ever hearing you do a evaluation, and whoa, you're on fire. That was great. All right, round robin time. Who has advice or comments or anything that Javier needs to hear? Raise your hand. Robin?
Yes, I'm sorry, hang on, I'm trying to fix so I can see the whole thing. Hey, Javier, this is something I've noticed before, and for some reason, your picture bounces while you speak. Does anybody else see that, or is it me? And I'm not sure if it's a vibration that's going on or something. And I'm sorry, because I should have said something earlier, but I was like, I gotta tell him that today. For some reason, it looks like you're kind of going like this while you're talking, and I don't think you are. So I'm not sure if it's something that you got your computer set on or whatever. But I wanted to share that, and it was great. The only thing, my favorite one, you said, I'm going to talk about my program, and went on. Just talk about your program, my friend. Don't narrate, just tell us. But it was a great presentation. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you, Robin. Who else would like to share? John?
Your comments about fun and about improv comedy were tantalizing. And Tantalus could never quite reach that apple, but always wanted to. And so I loved what I heard, but I'm tantalized. I want more, and I hope that I get to hear you talk more about fun and improv comedy techniques that made you a better speaker.
Good point. Anyone else?
Oh, I did want to say one other thing. Thank you for
Okay.
including the audience. You do that very well. And again, you did it today.
Awesome. Margaret?
Javier, I just want to let you know, I really, really enjoyed the game that you played. I thought that was great. I thought that was a great additive to your speech. I find that when you add a little bit of entertainment to your speeches, it just makes it that much more effective too. It makes people, still interested and want to hear more. So.
Awesome, thank you. All right, this is going to end our round robin because although our real Robin is the time master. Can you tell us the timing results?
Sure. For Tammy, she was 8 minutes and 16 seconds. And Yvette was 7 minutes and 40 seconds.
Perfect, all the way through the time. And Javier, if I could give you one piece of advice, I would say, I want you to do a better introduction for the Toastmaster or for whoever's going to introduce you, because it was just bare bones and it didn't give me anything to talk about exciting. You know what I mean? I want your introducer gets people ready to hear your message. And so you should put people don't generally put a lot of time on their introduction, but that's important, especially for you, my friend, because I hope you're selling your services. So help me as your introducer, help you get the results. Anyway, great job. We have some amazing speakers here. I would love to now turn the lectern over to our grammarian who jumped in, and I appreciate it. Akili, take it away.
Thank you so much, Madam Toastmaster. I have the pleasure of making this easy. I waited for all the speakers to finish, just wanting to put something down on this paper. I had this great line that I was going to say. I was going to sing John's song correctly and say have instead of got, but then I remembered I can't sing, and so I let that go. That was the only thing I could find. We have some ums and ahs that we do when we get comfortable or when we forget that we are supposed to pause rather than using the ums and ahs. But other than that, we do a pretty good job at the fillers. I am going to point out one area that I noticed myself doing, and then I started listening for others. It's the double clutch. Those words we say and when we're thinking about what we want to say next. As we focus so much on our ums and ahs in Toastmasters, let's do the same thing for our double clutch. One of the reasons why the speeches were so great and mesmerizing today was because of the grammatical conversation that was put into them. I'm trying to think of the right word, but they were put together well, and we had very little filler words. So we're holding on to everything that they were saying. Let's remember that. Think about what we heard today and try and mimic some of the amazing speeches we heard without the filler words and a lot of words that didn't flow correctly. See, I did it again. Didn't flow correctly. And always remember John's line is going to be have and not got. Madam Toastmaster.
Oh, thank you, my friend. It's good to see you too. I haven't seen you in a while. All right, my
Debbie?
rate is, yes.
Debbie, I have four interesting things I heard today. I probably heard more, but polysyllabic words. Oh, I just love that, John. And Lamar, I almost couldn't work on my notes for the evaluation for some things that she pointed out. Financially broke Black girl, beautiful. Paints of the picture. I know too many of those. Tried everything, including crying. That use of humor and timing is excellent. And then you graduated, thank you, Lordy. Well, I'm graduated magna cum lately, so I absolutely understand what you're talking about. Those are some things I heard today.
Okay, thank you, Tammy. It is my job to get the meeting in on time. We have two members that have hardly said anything. Linda Kay, what did you think of the meeting in 30 seconds? How about?
I have to say, Lamar's speech really moved me. I remember back in the 60s, the segregation, and I was just picturing what she was going through, and it was very emotional. So thank you for your talk.
Thank you, Linda. And Annette Fazio, who has been playing with her backgrounds. I've enjoyed this. What'd you think of the meeting?
Well, my daughter was here, so I ran late. And what I heard, I liked a lot. But then again, I really like this meeting. This is an intelligent, inspiring meeting, period.
Well, we're glad you came. Good to see you, my friend. Now it is our job of our presiding officer to ask our guests how they like their meeting, but I will tell you that I'm so grateful that Donna Moore is here. She's a phenomenal speaker, and I think she should join POPs, but what do I know? So, Madam President, take it away. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Deb, for a great job as our Toastmaster and our general evaluator today. Well done, very smooth. That's excellent. And it's okay, you can pass it to me because I know Donna Moore. Donna Moore was in my first Toastmaster club. So Donna, I take your arm. And as I twist it ever so gently, I say, welcome here. Thanks for coming. How did you enjoy the meeting? And how should we do all your paperwork?
I did enjoy the meeting. I came because John was speaking, and he is generous enough to come to Concord Toastmasters when I'm speaking. And I really wanted to hear his speech. I didn't know very much about this meeting, so I'm really glad to know you're here. And if the time is convenient, I'd love to join.
Well, excellent. Well, you know what? We changed the time to make it convenient for you just recently. 4 p.m. to 5:30, the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th Sundays. In fact, January 30th is our next meeting.
And that's for Houston time. She's in the East Coast, so.
Right, that's Houston time. So you're going to be doing 5 to 6:30. Absolutely. Having said that, Deepak, our Vice President of Education, has had his knees clipped by COVID. So he's really struggling. I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and can only tell you, I will give a speech on flotation tanks and they will save you forever. Sounds so simple, but we'll talk more about that in the future. Anyway, please sign up for the 30th. Give us a speech. Do not do what Lamar Brown did and wait almost a year. What the heck, girlfriend? You made us earn that, and it was so worth it, but no more. So please, 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 let's go. Let's get And my challenge to all of you all the time is that rotary speech. The rotary speech. If you're out there speaking, this is a place to practice. Rotary is a place to practice, and here's the place to practice for rotary. So if you don't understand what that means, if you'd like to have a longer conversation, let me know. Just write me a note and we'll have a chit chat. That is all I have. Are there any other announcements? Well, if there's no other announcements, and even though I didn't to begin with, I'll to adjourn.
Awesome. You don't have to leave. I mean, we can still chat, but
I just
meeting-wise,
officially adjourned the meeting, but we're here until I click off. And hopefully,
Good to see everybody.
Donna, you sent me where did you go? You sent me about Jeannie Robinson. I haven't really looked at it, but Jeannie Robinson was one of my favorite speakers. And guess what? I had the privilege of speaking at the National Speakers Association way back when. Let's say it was 1994, I think it was. And I could do I did what was called, I represented all of New England as a speaker, and Robin was there. And I had to speak for 5 to 7 minutes. And who was the speaker before me? Jeannie Robinson. I'm like, oh, nothing. Why don't we make this tougher? But she was fun, so.
Well, I just thought that particular hour-long speech was so inspirational, and it was the last one she gave before she died.
Really? Okay, I'm gonna click that on. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, it's very good. I've watched it a couple of times.
There's also one about that Terry sent me about a Pashmina that is really funny. I just really enjoy her sense of humor. I'm from Mississippi, and it just I felt really connected to her.
Lamar, I have a question for you. Was that a private religious school? Was that a Catholic school that you went to?
My kindergarten was University of Wisconsin-Madison. It's where the professor's kids went.
Okay. Okay. I was raised in Catholic school, one of just one speckle in the snow. And I remember hearing names, but I would always, and I was adopted, so I was never around Black people, but I remember hearing names and I would always look around and wonder who they were talking about. And then when I got older, I would go, that was me. Who knew? So I never knew that those words were meant to cut me. And when I hear you say it back, it reminds me of what I was supposed to learn from the words that were being said, but I just never knew. So it's just an interesting that those words continue to go around, and you're just like, and I taught my kids to ignore them. I said, never fight over someone who talks about your mother or someone who says a name to you, because I don't know if they're talking about me. I don't know unless you tell me. And if they're saying something, it means that their vocabulary is so limited that they had nothing else to say. So,
It's about them, not you.
yeah, it has nothing to do with me. Of course, I didn't know it had something to do with me in the first place, but.
It was a horrific time. I look back on it, and it's just, it grieves me. It grieves me to have heard that, because unusually I was around African Americans and heard the slurs, and my family didn't really use them, but because we had friends, folks that babysat us and went to our church, and so now through the eyes of history, hearing these things, I'm going, oh my gosh, how can we all heal from this? It was abhorrent.
I think one way you can heal from it is knowing that on one side that was so negative, the other side that a white family who originated from Louisiana adopted me. That had to been hard in 1968. That wasn't in the prime of, that was in 1968. No. So that was, if we're thinking about, a birthday tomorrow or today, 1968 was a rough time for my family to say, hey, let's take this on. Let's take on this challenge. So, and my father was one of 10, so it wasn't like it was some little family. I went into a large Catholic, Roman Catholic family.
But you had a forward-thinking family.
I had a forward-thinking mother that bent the arm of my father and